If
You know what the fuck
at
that
a high
means.
level,
Come on.
and somebody call you out,
You know what that means.
it's like we got to
Son,
go
Oh
for
my!
You don't
Sounds
know
like
who-
y'all itching for a sports episode, but we're on.
Yeah.
We're
We on. All right, we on.
Considering today's topic, that's gonna be for another day.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
life lessons in the NBA Finals.
No bullshit. So, I'm O, the progressive baby boomer.
Ooh, you stole my tag. I'm the progressive millennial. You are that embryonic boy. That
That ain't been
baby
embryonic
boy.
since January, man. You know? Shit, I'm the progressive boomer.
Well, your birthday just passed, so do you still feel progressive? How do you feel?
I prefer booming.
You feel
I'm booming.
booming?
I'm booming like a motherfucker. Yeah, hell yeah.
Lively here, progressive millennial.
Yeah,
And
this
we're
is-
on.
Yeah, this is Sherm, the returning guest, the proud boomer.
Proud boomer. We got
Adrienne.
our CEO. The new CEO of the
Yes,
show.
the millennial CEO.
Millennial
exec.
CEO.
Wait, I thought you was Z. I thought you was zillennial.
I'm a zillennial.
She's a zoomer.
For some studies, I'm a millennial, and then for other studies, I am Gen Z.
She's a tweener.
Tweener.
She's
But
a
I
tweener.
claim being a
I just
millennial.
wanna say that today's episode, I got 3 lawyers here with me. ChatGPT ain't got shit on me. I got more knowledge than anyone. So today's episode, if you didn't hear my views and thoughts and opinions, stay tuned for the next one.
So it's interesting. So let's drill down a little bit on that because, you know, our recurring guest, you may or may not know, he used to be in his former life a prosecutor.
Mm-hmm.
And we have our millennial, the CEO. She's a prosecutor.
Let's not give her that tagline now. That's just too early.
All right. So she's just a millennial. And she's our CEO. Well, no, she's a prosecutor. So Donald Trump just got prosecuted his ass. 34 counts, all felonies got prosecuted by Alvin Bragg, a prosecutor of color. And the Trump camp is going crazy. The Republicans are going crazy. People are saying the system's broken. People are saying that, you know, and I'm a little confused because if you listen to what the Republican writers are saying, that Donald Trump should never have been prosecuted and or convicted. And if you listen to the left, they're saying he got what he deserved. Now, I believe if you commit crimes, you get prosecuted, and if a jury of your peers convict you, you were convicted of the crimes, right? So, as prosecutors, one former, one current, how did you feel about the Donald Trump conviction? Was it warranted? Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Y'all gave great insight.
I'll defer to the current assistant state's attorney for Anne Arundel County, Maryland.
Was it warranted? Yes, I think it's appropriate. You're charged with a crime. The standard is beyond a reasonable doubt. And if you're convicted of it, then that's fair. And typically we say that means that justice was served.
I think just 12 jurors. See, I thought there was going to be a hung jury.
I did not. They had 2 lawyers on the jury. But, you know, the way the system works is this. You know, if you commit certain acts that the law enforcement authorities think are crimes, then they present the evidence of those acts to a grand jury. Grand jury is made up of citizens, again, right? And those citizens sit back and they listen to the evidence and they decide whether or not there is a reasonable basis to indict.
And return an indictment.
They return the indictment. So that's the system. Once an indictment is returned, you go, you have an arraignment, you plead guilty or not guilty. He pled not guilty. They exchange information concerning, you know, what is going to be proven at trial. How are they going to prove that this guy actually did what he was accused of doing? They go to trial. They present, once again, citizens, right? People who are registered to vote, by the way, come in, they choose a jury, and they go to trial. That's the system. That is what happened in this case. What's broken about that? Nothing.
So Trump is saying, to take his argument, is that because New York is Democratic, he was put on trial in front of a jury of Democrats. And, of course, they were going to convict him.
Yeah. And, when Emmett Till got lynched, right, because Mississippi was racist, right, an all-white male jury decided that the two white men who killed Emmett Till were innocent. They used the system. Was the system broken then? In my opinion, it was. I'm not saying it was broken, but it was certainly misused. It was certainly abused.
Manipulated.
It was, well, I mean, look, in Mississippi in 1958, a white man could not be convicted of killing a black man if taken to trial. So a lot of times they didn't even go to trial. When they would do a lynching in Mississippi, and I don't want to go too far back, right? You know what the coroner would put on the death certificate?
No.
At the hands of persons unknown. And everybody knew who stormed the jail and took the key from the sheriff and opened the jail cell and dragged the person out and lynched them. But in Mississippi, it really wasn't a crime. And that's what the jury said.
So do you think that Trump was convicted because the majority of the jury pool was Democratic? Was Democrats?
No, it doesn't matter. He was convicted using the system that we have. System's not broken. It isn't. They went through every step provided by the system. And he was convicted. He was convicted because the evidence was overwhelming against his guilty ass.
We're also assuming that the jurors were all Democratic. They don't know what they were, but typically when you're a juror, you have jury instructions, and you're supposed to follow the jury instructions. You're presented with the evidence, and then you come out with an outcome.
I'd say even more than that, you have voir dire, where the sides are able to get jurors off the jury that they think won't be, and keep jurors that they think will be to their liking. And they went through that process.
There was a person on the jury who said that they regularly got their information from Truth Social, right? And regularly watched Fox News. So, these people chose to do their civic duty, which was to go and just listen to the evidence. And based on the evidence that was presented in court, and only in court, right? Not evidence that, social media and all of that, because they're warned not to do that. They're only allowed to consider the evidence as being presented in the courtroom. They said, yeah, he did it. He did it. Simple as that. So when they say the system is broken, what they're saying is it ain't working for us. We don't like it. That's what they said when OJ was acquitted. Oh, the system must be broken because we don't like the verdict.
Yeah, I think normally with other people who are more sane and are not childlike and have behaviors that is just like despicable, we can kind of consider that. But Donald Trump, I mean, this is his normal talking piece. Everything he says is everybody's fault. He's point fingers. He can't take accountability. And his points are obviously just really ridiculous. He's like, it's a rigged system. They did this to me. Like, who's really believing that? I appreciate the fact that you guys are on here talking about the law, because I think people want to know too, like, especially ones who are Trump supporters. They probably may want to know, if they're conflicted, did this guy really do it? Because there was a poll that was a small percentage of people were asked who were Trump followers, like, if Trump were to be convicted, would they still vote for him? They're like, nah, we won't. But it's a small percent, and plus, it's not really real time. You never know what's going to happen, what he's going to say to counter that. But so anyways, good to know that you guys can validate that, no, the system isn't broken. Like, justice was served. I appreciate you guys breaking it down in that way for people to know that, instead of just listening to Trump and just kind of being like, okay, he says this, so we're going to believe it. You know what I mean? And we don't know what the system is like, so.
Well, and you make a good point, because, there's been so much distrust that's been sown into our institutions now that a lot of people don't know what to believe, don't know
Yeah.
what to trust, don't know what to put their faith into. And, that happened, I think, back during the Trump presidency. And obviously he's angling to get back in one more time. Mainly, and if you know Trump, he's all about his own self-interest.
Yeah.
He wants to get in so he can avoid the shitstorm that's rolling downhill headed to him right now. But, it does raise an interesting question, because one of the things that I remember from when Trump was in office was how polarized we were as a country. And that continues, but it was continually stirred up to be in its highest heights during his presidency. And as we look at, the possibility of him getting back in, the things that have been in place, diversity, equity, inclusion, things of that nature, that have been for years put in place to try to create an equal level playing field. Mm-hmm. And now those things are being rolled back.
But I think that one of the reasons why Trump's base is so up in arms is because Alvin Bragg is black. Letitia James, who has a conviction against this, well, it's not really a conviction, it is a judgment, right? Because it's a civil case.
She won.
Yeah, she won. She's black, and Fannie Willis is black, and it's easy for them, Trump and his acolytes, to say, look what they're doing, because they can always paint race into the picture. They don't have to say it, right? They don't have to say it, but Trump, these corrupt prosecutors, this, that, and the other. And when you see the faces of the people who are prosecuting them, they are black. So, Miss ASA, being a black prosecutor in Anne Arundel County, do you feel that you have, faced, I don't know, a difference, than your white colleagues when, you were prosecuting either white people or black people?
Well, at the outset, I want to say that I absolutely love the people that I work with. However, I do think we have different experiences. Some of it has to do with where we prosecute. Part of my prosecution is in Glen Burnie, and those are a different type of people. And then the other area that I prosecute is in Annapolis, and that's different. It can be hard sometimes prosecuting people who look like you.
Yeah? Tell me more. What do you mean by that?
Oh, well, okay. So,
I never explained.
yeah, I want to explain.
What does that mean?
But look, I'll just say this. That's one of the reasons why when I came out of law school, I clerked for a judge, and he was a former prosecutor that wanted me to become a prosecutor. And I resisted because I didn't want to prosecute a lot of people that I grew up with. I just didn't want to do that. I didn't feel comfortable doing that. Mm-hmm. So I moved away from that. I didn't want to be in that position. Mm-hmm. Now, go ahead.
But you said you don't want to prosecute people that look like you, not family or friends.
She said she didn't want to.
Okay, well, can you elaborate on that?
Sure, that it's hard to. Mm-hmm. There are some groups within our society that have a culture, and I think black people have a culture here. Mm-hmm. That's not something that I really thought too much about once I started working. And it's difficult. It's difficult to look at people who look like me and recommend jail or give them a conviction.
Even if they caused a crime that was
heinous
punishment and heinous. Rape, sexual abuse, all, you name it, murder.
Yes, and make no mistake, I recommend jail because I think that punishment is what fits the crime. I took an oath when I decided to come to this office, and I take that seriously, but it still can be difficult. I'd imagine it's difficult to see your children cry or to discipline them sometimes, and it can be difficult, like I said, looking at people who look like you and who maybe have had harder experiences in life and not the right opportunities.
So what was difficult for me when I was prosecuting was knowing that the police ain't shit and that the police lie right? And the police make shit up just to get a conviction. And so when
Even with body camera.
yeah, exactly.
That's
so
crazy.
So, when you see that, somebody who looks like you is charged with a crime, and you talk to the police officer and he tells you, well, I went down there and they was down there, you know how they be, they down there in a circle and all everybody. It's hard. That's an extra layer. It's like this guy.
You're judging.
Exactly. I'm saying
He's bringing his bias to the experience.
he's bringing his bias to the experience. I'm bringing my bias to the experience.
Holy shit.
And I'm looking at this brother saying, you know what? You might be looking at 10 years if you did this shit, but this guy who is bringing the evidence might not be totally upfront. He might
He's not an
just
honest man
be
and unbiased.
lying.
Yeah. Damn.
Do the police lie? Adrian, do the police lie?
There are times where officers are less than honest.
Very diplomatic.
That's bullshit.
Listen.
But you're a former prosecutor. She's a current prosecutor. Good answer,
Less than
counselor.
honest my
Listen,
ass.
Adrian.
Lie.
Probably more so than less than honest is considering the fact that police officers are the ones who bring the charges. So if you're driving down the street and you're driving uninsured and you fit a particular description in a particular area, let's say you're a white female and you're in Potomac, Maryland, it's much more likely that if you get pulled over, you're going to be given a warning. If you look different and you live in an area that is less socioeconomically developed, it's more likely that you are going to get a ticket. And some suspensions carry jail time. So you now are charged with a crime whereas someone else had a warning. So you'll go to court and then, the next thing kind of happens. You likely will get a conviction. And so now we start creating these factions within society that are sort of just based off of the benefit of the doubt. So is it true that both of those people were driving suspended? Yes, but what is the result? The result is that people who look like us face a different outcome.
True.
Yeah, and that's institutional racism.
Isn't it weird that is the two-tiered justice system that is being decried now by the right? Oh, there's a two-tiered justice system. There's always been a two-tiered justice system. You're just experiencing the tier that you're not used to.
Yeah, and I guess yes, that's true. The reality is that we wish that the system was colorblind. The reality is that it's not. It's never been. And so, and that was the challenge for me when I started thinking about being what area of law would I practice in? Would it be, prosecuting and doing, criminal? Because either you're going to do defense or you're going to be a prosecutor, right? And so I couldn't defend somebody that tells me that they raped 15 little girls. I couldn't defend that person. But I also had, problems prosecuting people that look like me, right? And a good friend of mine who was a prosecutor told me one day.
That wasn't me, was it?
No, it wasn't you, actually. It wasn't.
Damn sure wasn't me.
No, it was not you. He said, I am a prosecutor because the system needs to be tested on a daily basis. And if I'm the one that's testing, I'm going to be more likely to bring my experience to get a better outcome than somebody who doesn't look like me.
Yeah.
And I thought that was, I kind of got that.
Everybody wants justice to be blind, right? But she's not. She's blindfolded, right? So every time you see this statue of justice holding the scales, she's blindfolded, which suggests that she can see. You don't blindfold a blind person.
Yeah, true that.
Right? And so even the symbols of justice suggest that she might be peeking and she might consider what you look like.
Or that justice should be blind But
she
the
ain't.
reality is that it may not always be.
She's not.
Yeah.
So
You don't
Adrian,
blindfold a sighted person.
how do you feel about prosecuting the counterpart, the white counterpart? Is there anything similar that you consider, or do you just follow the law, very unbiased, unemotional about it? Like, what is your process with that?
I carry my own biases in anything. I grew up in a community of mostly white people, but I lived in an area of mostly black people. So it's different because black people have a culture. And so
What does that mean? You said this is the second time. What do you mean by that?
yeah, I could be wrong, but black people typically have a culture, things that we understand, jokes that we have, a way of life, a way of raising our children, and so on and so forth. So when you feel like you're part of a culture, typically you feel like you're part of a family. It doesn't really feel, I think there's a closeness there that exists less with any other group of people, including the majority.
It's interesting because I don't think black people support each other as other cultures. That we say, like for example, the Jewish culture. You know, so I get what you're saying. We do have a culture, but then it's almost as if I don't know, because of trauma, that we were taught not to support each other because there's like some sort of like an era within our culture where we're taught to like hate each other.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it's almost like someone just dropped a mold and just let it spread. But there's something about that culture that you speak of, but it's lacking those things as well.
No, you're 100% right, and you're 100% right. But I would say that when you say that black folks have a culture, every ethnicity has a culture.
I was going to ask
Right.
that. Right.
You know, white folks have a culture.
Though some say they don't.
I know. Black folks have a culture. Asians have a culture. But here's the reality. The reality is that in the black society, in the black community, our culture has a virus that was infected hundreds of years ago by the Willie Lynch papers when they began to put things in place to pit light skin against dark skin and field slaves against house slaves and create that virus that still permeates to this day with its colorism and all these other things that we struggle against, because that was infected into our population and community that has permeated our culture.
You know, that's extended all the way to Africa. You got people in Nigeria, especially Nigerian women, bleaching their skin, wanting to be white and not dark skin. It's crazy how that is.
It is, but it ain't.
So this segregative mindset, I think, is in every culture, right? It really is. And yes, you know, we've been infected with images and imagery of negativity associated with us. It's even in the language. You know, anything is black is bad. The black sheep, you know.
Black mark against you.
Yeah, all of that. But, you know, I always say, you know, I use the fall of the Soviet Union as an example, right? So when all these countries broke out of the Soviet Union, there was genocide. They started killing each other, right? And that's what I say about America. If you know, the far right succeeds in trying to exterminate the brown people, and then trying to exterminate the black people, they're not going to stop there. They're going to start exterminating each other because they don't have control over this segregative facility that we all have.
We've already been there.
Yeah, we've already been
Polish and Italian.
Exactly. It wasn't until the 1940s and 50s that all of those people became white, right? Because it was easier to just identify black people as the underclass. So, you know, this segregated facility, I don't want to just heap it onto black people, you know, because I think it's a human condition that, you know, we all need to learn how to overcome.
Sure, but at some point you probably should start thinking about solutions. Is it true that other cultures have issues? For us, we call it colorism, but is it true that other cultures have issues that create segregation within their community? Sure, but I also think as a whole, Black Americans uplift each other. Like you asked me why it was difficult. It's difficult because I consider myself a Black American, so I consider myself part of this culture that I'm prosecuting. But a lot of times we focus on the issues that we have with no clear solution as to how we want to progress forward.
Yeah, so that leads me into something else that's on some level related and concerning, which is this legislation of diversity, equity, inclusion out of education, out of businesses, out of, the Supreme Court not too long ago issued a ruling saying that in education you can't allow preferential treatment based on race, ethnicity. And for me, I thought that was a pretty heavy blow to the ability of communities of color being able to get to that equal level playing field that we've been striving to get to. And I just feel like yet one more hurdle to try to keep the haves having and the have-nots have-notting,
Yes, I agree. I think that if diversity, equity, inclusion implemented in corporate world was really effective and working, taking that away would suck. But was it really?
Oh, Elon, stop it, Elon. Stop it.
No. I'm asking. Hey, I don't know. Educate me, guys. Was it working? Was it an effective thing? And if so, I'm so heartened that it's being taken away, and I really agree that we should fight for it. But was it? Because, as a freelancer working in corporate, going to these places, it almost seems like a show that they put on. Oh, we're diverse. We have this black picture on the wall that this person who did this back then. We support the blacks. Black Lives Matter. We put a sign on it. But is it really effective? So I don't know. You guys tell me, and then maybe I can put some thought into this. But is it just one big propaganda? Or is this something that was actually something that was a system that was effective and now is being taken away from the black community? Well, not just black, but minorities.
So Sherm and I went to law school together. Mm-hmm. I'd like to say, based upon my personal experience and my experience knowing Sherm, that we would have got into the law school we got into notwithstanding any type of, affirmative action program. Mm-hmm. Now, there was one or two people in our law school that I clearly knew without a shadow of a doubt they were affirmative action recipients. Mm-hmm.
so
they're pretty much
no.
Look at it like this. Oberyn and I got in to the University of Maryland's law school. You know who didn't get in? Who applied and did not get in?
Thurgood
Marshall. So, affirmative action, right, is to give opportunities to the Thurgood Marshalls of the world to go to the University of Maryland Law School. That's what it's really about. Mm. And so when you eliminate consideration of race in admission standards, you are holding, the institution to a standard that they've never applied before.
Ooh, yeah.
Because they've always considered race in admission standards. It just was that you had to be white. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if black folk can't get in, then you're considering race in your admission standards. Yeah. So the irony is, suddenly because black people can get in, well, let's not consider race. Let's actually try and make it an even playing field, even though for centuries, for years, Race was the dominant factor as to whether or not you could get in.
Here's the issue, because race needs to be considered in education. It needs to be considered in the workplace, because for centuries we have been held back, right, because of color. Pervasive in our communities of color is you have to be twice as good to get half as far, right? And that's not something that gets thrown out there just for something to say. You've got to be exceptional to be able to even get a shot at shit, right? And so when you start rolling back, the obligation of educational institutions and workplaces to give a shot to communities of color and minorities, you start pushing people. We don't even got to consider you. You might be a rock star, but we don't even have to give you an interview.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that's problematic.
It's problematic. I don't know that that's happening across the board. People who seem to be upset about diversity, equity, and inclusion, the majority of them don't seem to think that you shouldn't consider race at all, but more likely we shouldn't consider it in the way in which we consider it today. When Malcolm Gladwell is discussing this topic, he says, we do to minorities what we wouldn't do to our own children. If you have a child and they are excelling, but they are excelling in sports on the B team, you wouldn't drag them from the B team as the star athlete and put them on the A team, because then they're not going to play. You're never going to see them. So part of his point is that sometimes we take people that are excelling where they are and we give them the opportunity to do something else, and when they're given this opportunity, they don't do well. There's an element of Darwinism that I think exists here.
Here's my problem. My problem with what you just said. Because when you say about what Malcolm Gladwell said, you're talking about sport. You mentioned sports in that context, and sports is a meritocracy, okay? If you're the best athlete, you're the best this, that. We're at a point now, in sports, where you're going to put the best athlete on the field, the best this on the field. So I don't know that that's a good, example.
It's the same thing. If you have a job and you want someone to do it, if you own a business, you want them to do it well. You're not going to hire mediocre people to do a job that you need done well. And if the person that you hire is doing it to the best of their abilities, but they're not doing well, you're going to have a problem.
Hire the best person to do that job, whether black or white or anything.
And I think,
you're saying.
Yes, and some people who disagree with diversity, equity, and inclusion are just saying that. There are other factors probably that we don't consider in the schooling process, which we talk about most often, is that people consider people that are legacy applicants or sports. And I think that's different than when you're talking about diversity, equity, inclusion in the workforce.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, one of my biggest thing with this whole the idea as well is like Kamala or Kamala. Still, I don't even know which one it is. It is, or I don't know how she became a vice president, and I think that's for diversity, equity, and inclusion's sake. When she's not even qualified, it's like pick someone who's qualified. We haven't heard from
she's
this.
not qualified?
We haven't, man. When she speaks, man, it's like.
When she speaks.
What is she doing? What has she done lately?
Wait, you talking about qualifications and when she speaks? Two different things.
She has low approval ratings
That's true.
I mean, but what is she really doing? I haven't heard of any.
Different than qualifications.
Vice President Dan Quayle couldn't spell potato.
That's right.
He was vice president. Well, he shouldn't have been either.
The bar's low. But listen, she's more than qualified to be vice president.
She's not likable.
She's qualified to be president.
Yeah, but she's not likable.
No, she's not likable.
I grant you that. She's not likable.
If Trump can be president, you could. Okay? It doesn't take qualifications.
You'd be better than Trump.
You would be.
No, I won't. But
Shit.
I'm not meant to be a president. Yeah, that's not. But this is interesting because Adrian, I think you're onto something. And also, I'm appreciating your perspective because I think I know there's got to be something to a young prosecutor, someone who's now studying the law and looking at it with a bird's eye view and dissecting it with our generational way of thinking versus, let's say, the Gen Xers or Boomers. And what you think is right versus wrong. And I've been hearing you say, I'm listening, but I'm disagreeing with some of the things you guys are saying. Like, I want to know what are the things that you've been disagreeing in?
Sometimes we put ourselves into categories that we don't apply. You know, we try to make the shoe fit when it in fact doesn't. I went to law school, my brother went to law school, my dad went to law school, and we've actually all gone to the same law school.
Legacy.
I think it's far more likely that I got into the law school that I got into because of my legacy and not because of my race. Whether one is better than the other, I don't know, but it's probably worth a discussion.
It is.
Yeah, see, my problem is, you know, the NFL has instituted this Rooney Rule where you have to interview some black or minorities before you make a hiring choice.
They're not suing the NFL.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
They're not going there, right? Well, go ahead.
Yeah, no. And this is relevant because you enlightened me to the fact that they're starting to sue law firms.
Yep.
And I'm really curious about that piece of it because I don't know who in their right mind would sue a law firm. But again, you know what I mean? Like, you know. But
the reason they sue law firms and the reason they're suing large corporations is because it's for the effect. It's the visual, right? Well, all of these large corporations and all of these law firms have DE&I initiatives where they're giving opportunities to black people and women and Asians and Muslims
Hispanics,
and anybody who's different, brown people. Oh my God, you know, and it's the visual because a law firm is simply going to say, we're going to eliminate our program. But they're still going to do what they want to do in terms of their diversity initiatives.
Are they?
Yeah.
The ones that believe in it.
The ones
That's right.
Ones
That's
that
right.
believe in it, and the
ones that weren't were doing it anyway.
The ones that don't, it is a very convenient excuse to stop. But Ken Chenault was the CEO of
American Express. Absolutely.
Right? I don't believe he would have been had there not been some initiative towards diversifying CEOs at that level. Was he qualified? Absolutely.
More than qualified.
American Express did very well during his tenure. So, you know, let's go back to your example. If I'm on the B team and I'm pitching a bitch, the question should be, why the hell am I on the B team? I should be on the A team.
You shouldn't.
Wait a minute. You're assuming I shouldn't be. You're assuming that the reason I'm on the B team is because I've been judged fairly. Is because my talent says I should be on the B team. I'm saying I need to be on the A team. I need to be practicing with the A team so I can get better, so I can get A team ready.
Iron sharpens iron.
Absolutely. So the only reason I'm on the B team is because the coach's son got my spot on the A team, and he ain't shit. He's a bum.
No.
But that's the issue. Some of this stuff has to do with diversity and minorities and the way that you look, and there's a piece of this that has to do with nepotism and just having a legacy. But how do you differentiate the two, and what angle should we approach this as minorities if we want something? What's the best way to get what you want? And it probably isn't always complaining about something that bothers you.
I'm on the B team. I ain't complaining. I'm busting their ass down there on the B team.
So
you
maybe
said
we
I'm
should
a superstar on the B team.
See, but-
So
There's
maybe we
I
should.
need an opportunity.
But see, where you lose me, where you lose me is if you busting ass on the B team, and I'm the coach of the A team, you coming up on the A team.
I think what Adrian is trying to say is create more legacy. You know, maybe create more network within the black community so we can uplift each other as opposed to. Well, she can. Well, she can. Well, let me go. Let me
she
go.
Know what she trying to say. What you trying to say?
Okay, she can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I'm trying to say that she's trying to say, from what I know. And because at least with the way I'm listening to it, I think we're all listening to this different too, because of generational ear. I'm listening to it. I'm always like, what is the solution? What can you do? Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. And the same talking piece about, oh, they're like stopping us from getting a job. Well, create your own job now. We're living in a different era. Do your own thing. Back home, again, that's the only thing I can compare it to. It's like, talk about glass ceiling. Talk about lack of opportunity that you don't have here. You go back, my counterparts, same age, back home in comparison to here, that kid ain't doing shit with his life.
Why?
There's no opportunity to. He's worrying about hunger. You know what I mean? But here, you just have so much more opportunity. So I know there's, diversity, equity, inclusion matters. There's racism. All these things true. The factor. But you just have way more leverage to do something about it than people in other areas of the world.
So I grant you that.
So do it.
That's
And that's what the language should be for the black community.
That's
it's
why
like,
immigrants come here and they're looking like,
just do it, yo.
Oh, I can get a loan. I can do this. I can do that. And you got folks that are here in this community complaining about the fact that we don't have these opportunities.
Listen, I know we don't have to. We're not. It's not going to be fair. Life isn't fair. There's inequality in everything we do. I mean, height, attractiveness, race. It's so many inequalities. You got to. So what? What are you going to do? And I think here you have the opportunity to do way more. There isn't no excuse for anybody to say, I can't be that here. It might be harder, but you can do it. With the exception of someone who is really trying to, pose danger on you in your life. Racism that turns to violence. These things, I know they exist too. And depending on where you are, the demographics matter, right? But I just feel like we need to focus on the solution. I think there are solutions that we can take. We can own it. We can hold ourselves accountable, and we can still be successful here. And that needs to be talked about more as opposed to oppression.
We are successful here. We are successful here. No group of people have ever come as far from their previous condition of servitude to where we are in this country in the history of the world. We are successful here. We're not satisfied. You understand?
But the remainder of the satisfaction can come from the community.
What you hear me complaining about, right, is not that we don't have shit. What you hear me complain about is we're still being discriminated against. We're still the second-class citizens simply because of the color of our skin. And this whole new shit, let's go race neutral, that's brand new because this country has never been race neutral.
And it ain't. Even if you say be race neutral, it ain't race neutral.
That's some brand new shit.
People that are of sound mind would agree with you. But again, if you're of sound mind, then you would say there are always going to be people that fall through the cracks. There are some people that are running track on the B team that should be on the A team so that they can be given the opportunity. The likelihood that person who goes from the A team, from the B team to the A team, to be a star athlete on the A team is slim to none. But it's possible, and it happens, and it happens. And many of those people who are given the opportunity to move from the B team to the A team will be competitive.
So if I go to a B elementary school and I get a B elementary school education, and then I go to a B middle school and I get a B middle school education, and I go to a B high school and I get a B high school education, then I should go to a B college and get a B college degree and get a B job when I B graduate.
I think what you're missing from this, I mean, part of it is I would say, sure,
that
if that's what would satisfy you, if that's what would make you happy, sure. My point is just that sometimes there are people that fall from the cracks. They fall through them. They don't reach that full potential. And so we have implemented a system right now. It was affirmative action, and I guess kind of it's not really. So what is the solution? I don't know. But it's worth discussing that there are problems on both sides. Yes. There are problems. If you have people that are given positions where they're not going to excel and they can't excel.
It's not perfect. Everybody who should have gotten into the University of Maryland when Thurgood Marshall applied and was black would not have made it to the Supreme Court. They just wouldn't have. Some of them would have dropped out. Some of them would have been bad lawyers. Many of them would have been good lawyers and could have served the community at large. That's all I'm saying. Affirmative action is not perfect. Everybody who gets an opportunity is not going to excel with that opportunity. But if nobody gets that opportunity, if there's a color bar, you ain't getting in because you're black. You go on down there to Howard, you know? And yeah, Howard's a good law school. You know, HBCUs educate more lawyers in this country than any other institutions. 80% of the judges in this, black judges in this country graduated from HBCUs. 40% of the engineers in this country graduated from HBCUs. You understand? So, but you're playing a different game when you got that Harvard on your degree.
And many people with
You're
that
playing
Harvard
a different
on
game. You're in a whole different
That's
circle
fine,
of people.
but
if you're denied that opportunity, you don't play on the A team.
There
as
are
you
many
say.
people who are missing the opportunity to be seen because they are so obsessed with being on that A team, with being on varsity. If you are running track, because we're keeping with that. If you're on the B team, right? Let's say you're on JV. There are people who play college that are on JV. Those people, if they were moved from the junior varsity team to the varsity team, they're going to be overlooked. They're going to be overlooked by the other athletes that are going D1. When the coaches come to watch you, they're not even going to see you. They're not going to see you because you're on the bench. But if you were on the junior varsity team, you would be able to get notoriety. There are people who have gone to Howard and finished at the top of their class and have worked at top law firms. And had they taken their transcript and transferred to Yale or to Harvard or something like that, it would have been harder for them to be successful. They wouldn't have gotten the same opportunities. They wouldn't have gotten the interviews during OCIs to top law firms. Why? Because law firms only look at your grades. So they go from scoring at the top of their class to doing mid to below. They don't even get an interview. They don't even get to be seen.
So we should end it because some people aren't going to excel with the opportunity that they're given. Is that what you're saying?
No.
They're just... some people ain't gonna do well, so all of them shouldn't get in.
No,
Just eliminate the program because some people they just ain't gonna cut it. Of course, some people aren't gonna cut it. That's how it happens.
And all some people are asking for is for that acknowledgement. I never once said that diversity, equity, inclusion is bad or that it's ineffective. And I've never said that about affirmative action either. The important part is to acknowledge that just like everything in society, there are some things that need to be made on an individual basis. How we could do that on a broad scale, I have no idea. But at the end of the day, the people that are falling through the cracks are people that look like us, and it is hurtful to our community.
We don't know how to do that in America. You're asking America to do something it's never been able to do.
There are a lot of things that America has never been able to do.
Let's just do it on merit.
That's
Adrian,
not
I had
what
a question
I
for
said.
you.
I didn't say do it on merit. I said do it on an individual basis. How that would be done, I don't know. I'm not saying that I have all the answers, but you have to acknowledge that there are pieces of diversity, equity, and inclusion or affirmative action that are hurtful to us as a community.
Before I forget, let me ask you this question. You said there were problems on both sides. Do you believe there are problems on both sides when it comes to systemic racism?
I don't think I said there were problems. What do you mean problems?
You said there were problems or challenge. I wanted to ask you this question before I forgot the point that you made. I probably don't remember. You were saying something and you ended with there were problems on both sides as it related to.
Maybe this will help you, but Candace Owen gets a lot of slack from our community.
That's a great.
And rightfully so, maybe rightfully so. But is it true that some of the perspectives that she has are correct?
Absolutely.
sometimes we sort of, we throw the baby away with the bathwater. We don't like this person because of the things that they say about X, Y, and Z. And we are so inflamed about those things personally that we can't hear what they're saying about other things. And those other things may be helpful to our community.
Well, I blame Candace because she's really extreme with it. This is interesting. I have a bird's eye view on this because Candace Owens she's not really that... She's annoying. I don't like her, really. But she's just an annoying. Like, if I knew her in person, I would just be like, you annoy me. You know what I mean? Like, it's the way you say something, not how you say it's how you say it's not what you say. And most of the time, I think she's capitalizing on the idea that her views are so polarizing to the black community as a black person. And she marries a white man and all these things. But her perspectives are not really that wild. Sometimes, in most cases, she's unbiased. She's not biased to the black community. She's looking at laws and things. She's saying, hey, guys, you can do better for yourself if you just stop trying to be, like if you get over the trauma. That's really her message, right? And she seems so polarized because it's like, Candace, you're not on our side. You black. You X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? Like, because there's a terminology or there's a culture associated with what black is here. And anybody that deviates from that is not black enough. There's this thing, man. It's trips me out. You know what I mean? Like, even when I used to speak, the way I speak, growing up with my cousin, because I chose to enunciate my words properly or try to educate myself, they go, you're acting white. What the fuck is white? Or you're saying by me trying to improve and be better and invest in personal growth because I don't want to do that, so I'm acting white. And Candace is just like one of those who's kind of free from the public opinion of what it is to be black. And she's kind of independent in her stance. So sometimes that could be frustrating to black communities. And she's just annoying. I just don't like her personality. So I just don't like her. But some things she says, I'm like, black people, this is going to skip over their heads.
And that's all she has a lot of perspectives. They're very polarizing and just kind of downright offensive. But I remember when she was talking about Black Lives Matter, and Black Lives Matter as a concept, what it means, what we'd like to do makes sense. But then she started talking about the donations that Black Lives Matter as an organization receives and how it's not really accounted for, and people like us and other people, I mean, everybody has many people have donated. And then, nobody knew where the money went and found out that it was
she had two mansions.
It was going to one person, and she was just using it to travel all around the world and do whatever else. So the reality is that a lot of people were spending their money towards an organization that they thought was important and valued. And then the proceeds never went to the programs where they thought it was going to go.
They invested in the meaning of what it could be. Same with diversity, equity, inclusion, which is why I asked you guys this question to begin with. Is this something that's effective, or is it just something that's like,
what did Candace Owens say about the donations that went to the NRA?
Candace Owens probably didn't say very much about it.
So the organization, do you think it was effective?
What did Candace Owens say about the CEO of the NRA spending all that money? Crickets. Candace Owens is getting paid.
The sound should be more like gung gung, like Law and Order.
Candace Owens is getting paid to tear down black organizations. Cool, Candace. Go on and get your money, girl. Marry a white boy. Do whatever you want to do. It's your life. I don't have to agree with that bullshit because I know what you're not saying. So if you want to be taken as credible with me, if that issue is so important to you that donations that are going to a nonprofit organization that is supporting a cause, if that's what's important to you, tell it all.
Yeah, Candace,
don't just talk about what we doing and what we're not doing.
Her brand is associated with that. That's how she makes her money, by tearing down the black community.
Right. Yeah. Of course.
That's why I hate her. I realize.
Well, of course.
That's why I can't stand her. When she says some shit, I'm like, what the fuck? But my other fact still remains. But go
So
ahead.
It's not that I hate her. It's that sometimes it's probably important to be deferential. There are a lot of things that she says that are problematic, but that doesn't mean by any means that everything that she says is problematic.
is Candace a millennial?
I don't know how
I
old
think
millennials go, actually.
Well, let's find out how old.
Well, I mean,
Wait,
so
how old is Candace Owens?
I think she's like 35.
Here's where I'm going with that.
She's 35.
35. Millennial. Yeah. Here's where I'm going with that.
You are a fan.
Because
I'm not a fan.
I think she might be 35. two months and 3 days.
yeah. See, here's where I'm going with
I
that.
care about truth.
I called her
No.
Candace Owens.
No, see, so Laval's a millennial. Adrian's a
Did you vote
millennial.
for Trump?
You know.
Aren't you a Trump supporter? Like, I just said she had one point that made sense.
But so as a millennial, I'm curious about, because y'all move different. I mean, y'all move completely different than how, we in the older category move. You know what I mean? I mean, when it comes to almost everything, y'all move completely different. Laval told me a few weeks ago, I should sell my damn house and take the money that I made and move someplace smaller because money needs to circulate. I mean, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Boomers are
right?
holding on to their properties. Not
Right.
only that, but what happened
Right.
during the pandemic when the
Yeah.
housing act, when the market went dipped
Right.
and people bought, and now that's over, the market is not correcting. They're holding on to their shit. So the real estate business is fucked. And boomers need to move into a smaller location and
Right.
spread the wealth.
Because
We need to circulate.
right, because my house where we had the studio, my neighbor across the street sold their crib, smaller than mine, for $700,000. Right. Mm-hmm. If I sell my place here for $700,000, I can't move to a smaller place. It's gonna cost me $700,000 for a smaller motherfucking place. Why the fuck would I do that? Right.
Interest rates are too damn high.
Right.
When the interest rate come down, all this shit's gonna start moving.
Right.
But
It's the
now,
least you guys can do in reparations for
constipated.
climate change.
It's the least we can do. So here you go. See, y'all millennials move differently. But here's what I'm curious about. I'm curious about how y'all motherfuckers be on the dating. What's club like life for y'all? What y'all do? Do y'all go to clubs? What is that? Because when back in the day,
You actually two wrong millennials. Well, I'm not going to speak for you anymore because the last I did, I was probably wrong. But go ahead.
so you don't go to clubs. Y'all have y'all aged out of clubs?
When's the last time you've been to a club, Laval?
Oh, man.
About a year ago.
No, no.
Longer or shorter ago than that?
Shorter, but it's not.
Clubs ain't changed.
But
Clubs
actually,
ain't
it's
changed.
not really a club. It's just like more of a dance hall. It's a basement dance hall versus a club. So
What's the difference between a basement dance hall and a club? Do you go to basement dance halls?
They don't have a license.
because club has a certain etiquette. The reason I don't like clubs, I'll tell you. I'll say clubs specific to DC, right? So, and maybe you can narrow it down more. The clubs that I go to or I've been to in DC, right? That's what is it? I think Decades. I think
Decades, yeah.
the Decades. That's what it's called. Don't act like you don't know you be clubbing. She's like, I was there last weekend.
What's it called? What's it?
Look at you
She's
like
decades.
I'm not sure.
Decades?
I'm not sure if that's a name, but
Yes, decades.
But she's 35, I think. Yeah, Decades.
I only knew her age because I
Because
watched.
it's sissy.
You knew her age.
I
It doesn't matter why.
no, I didn't know
So
how
I think
old.
she's 35. It's like, she's 35.
I said 34, 35. It's because I listened
You had to
to
get
one
another
of,
variant.
No, I listened to one of her podcasts, and I'm pretty sure she said her age in the one that I happened to listen to, which was the one about Black Lives Matter. But
Yeah. Okay, got it. But clubs.
yeah.
I don't personally like to go to club because in that environment, guys pay to get in. They dress to impress coming from a weekend of work. They want to get the chick that is the bad chick in the club, whether it's one or multiple. They're buying drinks. They're competing with you and other guys in the club. There's a lot of testosterone. If you step on a guy's feet, he wants to fight you because his shoes are fresh. I'm buying a table, and I'm separating myself from the crowd because I'm better and I got money, and I'm showing Gucci belts. That way of living and lifestyle and thinking, I don't like. And when I'm in that environment, I'm just read differently. A lot of guys try to size me up and think I am of the same mentality and wants to do the same thing that they want to do, which is compete for the next girl, or wants to fight and get physical. I don't like that. I want to be cool. I don't want violence. I don't want to fight. I want to be a friend, man, and I want peace. So I go to bars because I experienced that. It's a different culture. So that's why I don't go to clubs.
So what is that what you find in clubs?
I don't go to clubs very often.
Nobody believes that. No, go ahead.
I don't go very often, but when I do go, I try to go to the good spots in DC.
What's the good spots?
I can't tell you. Then they'll be packed with people. No, I'm just kidding. Well, there are different types of vibes. I'll agree with that with Lavala. There's 12 Stories, and I think that's more of kind of a loungy vibe. And then there's Decades, and Decades really is different. Decades has multiple levels. It has a lot of people. Probably somebody's going to beat you up if you step on their shoes, but I feel like that would kind of happen anywhere because people don't like when other people step on their shoes. But
no won't. If I'm at a bar anywhere, someone steps on my shoe, I tap their back. Hey man, you cool? No worries, no doubt. You're good.
You remember the podcast where Lavala was talking about stepping on people's shoes? That he always steps on people's shoes.
Yeah, he always did.
He's a shoe stepper on it from way back.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I got big feet.
You don't need to go to clubs.
yeah, you're a shoe stepper. It's different.
All right, so
it's also a different experience for females than it is for males.
How so?
For sure.
I'd agree that there's a lot of testosterone. When you go, it's like a mating ground or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So yes, you have men that approach you, and then you kind of decide what to do next. But
Whoa. You just, what the fuck does that mean? You decide what to do next. Hold up. What is the decision tree when men approach you? You decide what to do next. What are my options?
okay. Well, it depends on what they say.
Uh-huh.
So typically, let's say at a club in DC, someone will approach you and they'll say, "You're beautiful." Little small talk. Can I have your number? If you're at a club that has a lot of people, that contains more aggressive men, because there's a type in all of the different kinds of clubs. People that like to go to lounges are not going to go to the basement club or whatever. I think those men are more aggressive, and so for me in those moments, if I'm not interested, I still give my number because
You still give your number if you're not interested.
I didn't mean to laugh at that. No, the security. I'm sorry. Why am I laughing?
Why?
Why? Sure, why? Why? It's different for men than women. Why? I don't want to lose my life over a number, over an appetizer. Right. There are men that are in the club that are really aggressive, that don't really give you the opportunity to have a true opinion. It's not whether you'll give them your number. It's not whether you'll see them again. It's that you will do it.
So they're basically robbing you for your number. Your number or your life.
I've
Is that true?
Yeah, but I've had, I've had a lot of my partners have told me this before. So I get it, right? It's a safety issue. If you're in the street, just to avoid any confrontation, anything, just give the person your number and you can walk away. You've seen videos of women getting abused and beat up because they refuse to give the guy the number. He got in his feelings.
Is that where the fuck we are now in society?
We've been the fuck
if
there.
If you don't give me your number, I'm going to beat you
men
up.
has been aggressive.
I would have thought Diddy had his girlfriend's number.
Did he?
Is that what happens when you...
Did he?
Is that what happens when you refuse to give somebody your number? They drag you off the elevator?
But as it relates to Diddy...
If you're a woman and that is a real threat. Just like, this idea, if you're walking on a sidewalk at night, I've had this question asked to me before, and I never really thought about it at all, right? If let's say 9 p.m. and you're walking on the sidewalk and no one is around and you're in the same side of a woman, what would you do in that situation? Would you continue walking past her, or would you get on the opposite end and walk and give her right away to feel comfortable and safe and secure? You know, that's a tough one, because for me, if I know myself, I'm like, I'm not going to harm a woman. I would never, ever do something like that. So thinking from my perspective, I'll just go walk past her. What's wrong with that? I know myself. But in her reality, in her world, she's not meeting men like me every day. And so to free her of that possibility of danger and threat, because a guy can be really dangerous and, you know, overpower women most of the times, it would be common courtesy. Right, but men don't think about that. Just like men don't think, oh, you're not giving a woman your number. What's a man your number?
Wait. The common courtesy to do what when you're walking down the street?
Go on the other side.
Oh, please.
I would. That's an extreme, right?
No.
Like, because especially with me, I wouldn't do it because I'm like, she's gonna be safe regardless. But still,
hold on.
The idea is,
I get that. Check this out. This is, I am a futuristic boomer. 20 years ago, is another. I go to a deposition with another white lawyer, right? We're in D.C., just outside of Georgetown. We leave, the deposition was in one of those converted row houses that was a law office, right? So we're walking out after the deposition, walking down the street. About a block and a half up the street is about 5 young black guys. And we're walking up the street. I see them the block and a half up, right? My white counterpart doesn't even see them. I see how they're moving. They just talking. They just chilling. They just, vibing. We keep walking. When they get about 4 or 5 feet from us, he sees them and he stiffens up. And it's like, oh my God. And they look at him like, the fuck is he doing? And they walk by and they're like, he's tripping. And so he's like, after they go by, he's like, oh man, I'm glad you were with me, man. And I look at him and I'm like, this is how white folks get fucked up, okay? Because, and I told him, I said, look, man, I saw them 2 blocks up. I could tell they were just chilling. They're not looking for no action. But if you were here by yourself and you saw them, first of all, you should have seen them 2 blocks ahead. And if you did, you should have crossed the street. Because if you cross the street and they cross the street, now you got some time to think about what you might need to do. If you cross the street and they ain't thinking about you, they stay on your side of the street, they walk by, and it's no issue.
I get it. So in that case,
the time to cross the street was 2 blocks ago.
2 blocks ago,
yeah.
Absolutely. And so I'm looking at him like,
makes sense.
This is why white folks end up getting fucked up.
Your fear is offensive.
Right. Yes.
Your fear, your show of fear is offensive.
They wouldn't even have met. If I wasn't there, they might have messed with him just because he's a volunteer.
Yeah, and if a woman were to cross the street 2 blocks away from me, I would have felt offended. But I would understand.
You might not even notice why. 2 blocks away, you might not notice.
Yeah, I would.
But that's also still
if we're
different.
I would, but that is still also different.
It's different. The situation that Oberon describes seems to be one that has to do with prior anecdotes that you've heard. Women in clubs react to lived experiences.
Right.
I don't give my number out because nothing has happened to me. I give my number out because something has happened to me and something has happened to other people I know, and this is the safest option for me in that scenario.
It's not only does it happen, it's probably happened over and over and over again, even on a micro scale.
So you getting calls all the time.
Right.
You get cat calls all the time, probably. You get guys who are probably aggressive.
I bet you in the club last Friday night. You gave me your number. What's up, baby?
Well,
What do you do then?
Think about
You send them a voice
Oh,
note.
they don't know. They're blocked by the time.
Yeah, so it's easier.
With the block one, I'm like, it's different. I do that because, again, also I know that I can block them. I can change my number, whatever it is.
So, and Sherm, you seem to be shocked at the idea that someone.
It's shocking.
Okay, so you think that better her say no in a situation and say, I'm not going to give you my number and stand her ground?
So here's the deal.
Because men are not dangerous and nothing is going to happen?
Here's the deal. When we were going to the club, right? If you ask a woman for her number, that's probably, I don't know, one dance, one drink, and 20 minutes of conversation later. You don't just walk up to a woman, hey, baby, you beautiful, give me your number.
Right. Hell
Right?
no.
You have to massage
Connection.
that. If you really want that number, you got to know her name. You know,
What
you
she
got to know who
does.
she's
Wait,
there
you-
with. You got to know, whether she from here or not.
So in your
You
era,
gotta
there were no
know
bad
whether
boys.
or not you could buy her a drink.
In your era, there was no bad boys. You mean boomers had no such thing as going through those stages before having to.
That was a bad boy. Because if you
Well, in today's age, bad boys look
that's
different.
Right. If you wasn't bold enough to do that, you wasn't a bad boy. Only the bad boys would walk across the damn club.
Right.
With everybody looking,
Right.
and introduce
And holler at the
himself.
honey.
Holla,
Right.
holla.
Hey, we're not talking about the
I need
few
to holler at
percentage. We're not talking about the few percentage of men who understand, who were raised by their parents.
But no.
You know, like you guys come from a good home and you're talking from the perspective of what should be the case.
No, that was the culture. Women, whether they know it or not, control how they are going to be approached as a group. Because if a man approaches a woman and, he's a bad boy, as you say, and he never, ever, ever, ever gets a date or a number, they're going to change the approach because the women are in control. Simple as that.
And
That has nothing to do with.
doesn't apply here.
yeah,
I
that-
completely agree with that.
Because now you've allowed a man to intimidate you for the number, and it works.
Allow?
Sure, of course it works, and I also believe it would have worked during the Stone Ages as well.
Way to slide that in there.
That's funny.
Stone Ages.
That's funny, but we'd have
Ooh.
got stabbed. Okay?
So-
Because women carried switchblades.
What you're missing, I think, is an entire culture. The culture that exists nowadays is completely different. The rap music,
now you're agreeing with
the
me.
music that people play, the clothes that people wear, the way that we interact with each other as a society.
Completely different.
I mean, I've seen
Now you're agreeing with me. I said that was the culture back then.
right, but I don't agree with the other part of what you're saying is women can control this by what? Being more stern. If the culture in general is that things are more lax and that you can do whatever you want. I mean, I saw when I was taking the train to school, I've seen students cuss out teachers, cuss out grandmas, not give seats to pregnant people on the train. We live in a completely different type of society that is incredibly less respectful. So when people come up to you, it's just an initial, there's no discussion. It's not like, how are you? The things that you're talking about don't exist.
Give me your number, I'll kill you.
Yes.
That's interesting to how you guys
and
are
that is what
mocking this.
happens.
It's really interesting to me
You're
because
mocking it. Exactly.
it's so real. The fact that you're thinking as if it's sort of like make believe, or that's not really like women are in control. I think women are in control, but if you're in an environment where
it's not controlled, where there is no
I'm
control.
not going to a place where I'm going to get robbed.
now we're
for
back
my
to club. That's why I don't go to club.
I'm
I go to
not
bars.
going. I'm
But
Back to
there's
old
no-
question.
And listen, if women aren't in the clubs, guess who ain't going?
Men.
You are acting as if women only get treated that way in the club. And that hasn't been my experience, and that hasn't been the experience of other women that I know. It happens at the grocery store. It happens at the gas station. It happens when you're walking down the street.
Everywhere.
It happens other places because we're talking about a community. We're not just talking about club culture. If you want to talk about club culture, I think that's different. There's like groping. There's no kind of real dancing anymore, at least from the movies that I've seen. So things are definitely different these days. But as a society...
And you go to the club, do you expect to be groped?
She be sliding them jokes in there.
Look. Do you expect to be groped?
Yes.
Wait,
Wait a minute.
just why keep laughing at us?
I'm just saying, so...
She's like, yes.
Okay, all right, hold on.
Like,
So now, me, right, call me dumb. Why keep going?
There are other places other than the club that I have been groped before. And if I never went to a place where I felt I would be sexually assaulted, I would stay in my house with the windows shut because I have people that come to cut my grass.
It's that
Okay,
bad
so
now?
let's reel it back a little bit because I'm
Come
I'm
on,
with
is that really like wherever you go?
I think
you're
she
in a
had to-
Safeway and somebody's grabbing your ass.
I think she had to stress that extreme because there's the idea of that this isn't happening, but the point is it exists more often than I guess you both are making it seem.
Yes, more than you believe.
Much more.
And you think it's in one particular setting. The setting of the club is a lot more sexual. And I surmise that when you were going to the club, there were women who got groped there as well. Just because you weren't the ones who did it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. What I think is unfortunate is that the response from people who disagree with what's happening, from some people who disagree with what's happening, is that women should not. Women should go out less. Women should do this less. Women, instead of being like
we can go everywhere and do anything.
Men should change their behavior. Society should change the way that they treat women. It is sad that the response...
How's that happen?
It is sad that the response to men asking a woman for her number, her saying no, and then her being killed for it is, well, women should go out less. I mean, should we start wearing sweatpants and bags more also? Just garbage bags?
I don't understand why you put up with that. But listen.
Murder?
Listen.
I don't think they were putting up with it.
Apparently, the social norms have devolved into this
chaos.
Give me your number, I'll rob you. If you're in the club, you're available to be groped. There's no romance. There's no
connection.
No, there's no genuine.
There's no,
Usher, we find out Diddy was a Diddy.
Diddy?
There's no conversation.
He did.
There's no getting to know. There's none of that. It's just. We don't have any cultural norms. Well, the cultural norms
things aren't the
are
same.
Barbaric.
Things are not the same,
It's not that there
Sharon.
isn't any of that. It's not that there isn't any romance. But even let's think about the movies that we watch today. The movies that existed years ago, there was this tension and this romance. I mean, it was incredibly... it's like you could feel it through the screen. I think that's why people really like these kind of old-timey movies, because there's a level of beauty that doesn't exist in the movies that we listen to today, or in the movies that we watch today. And so that is reflective of the society that we live in. So it's not that romance doesn't exist, but that there are other horrors that have now become acceptable that weren't. Even some of the examples that I'm thinking about don't happen at the club, happen at a concert,
so romance
or happen
is
on the
horror
metro.
now. So romance is horror.
No, it's if you live in a society where you feel like you want everything all of the time and that when you want it, you should get it, why do you think that does not translate into other areas? We've talked in general kind of off the podcast about how we feel about boomers and how we feel about millennials. If you feel like millennials are self-centered, are selfish, and that want what they want and that can't take no for an answer, why do you think that doesn't apply to other areas?
You know, you got me clutching my pearls right now. Like, this is what y'all dealing with?
I've been clutching my pearls.
This is what you all are dealing with?
It's confusing to me that you think that it's going to stop there. Why wouldn't it continue to every other aspect?
It's the same when we talk about bully and the idea of social media bullying, and the response
You
that
can't
all
fucking
would
bully
typically
me.
say is
You can't bully me on social media.
But you know, and I know you guys have had that stance, but I think over how many episodes? I think we're in north of 80 episodes now.
Yeah.
Do you still, after time and time, gaining different perspective, knowing the role that social media plays in our lives now?
Yes.
Right. Do you still feel like, you know, do you still have that same mentality? Because I also want to relate it to what.
Yeah.
Adrian is saying now, because
Yeah.
it seemed like there's some sort of like disconnect between what's
Yes.
reality
I
right
have,
now.
I have
versus-
evolved to this extent, right? You still can't bully me on social media because I don't give a fuck, right? You ain't gonna make me do shit for whatever the fuck you do on social media. I could care less. However, I have evolved to the point by saying, if you are addicted to social media and you have to be on it, and you can't put it down, and you live on that motherfucking gram, I guess you can be bullied if the gram community is calling you out and clowning the fuck out you. I guess so. But if they were going to do that to me, motherfucker, shit, I'd give a fuck. I wouldn't even be on social media till 2 months from now, and I could care less. I give a damn.
Do you realize that social media is integrated in how we communicate now?
Because you walk down the hall and you see the guy who's bullying you at school, and he's afraid to say something to you in person.
Absolutely.
It's not
But
only
online, he's like, you know, he gives you the thumb up because you wired him the money that he bullied you for.
it's not even with communications or community. It's also with e-commerce. It's also with even like now the way we vote. You know, the way like, you know, politics is ran. All is through social media. You know, Twitter is one of the biggest town hall platforms as we know it. There's huge amounts of influence, and the nature of how social media works. It's not for the consumer. It's not to benefit the consumer. There are algorithm that's in place that manipulates your way of thinking to make you addicted to these applications to where you need it. It's part of, we can go into the science, but the facts are social media is part of our lives now. It's interwoven in everything. So just like what you were experiencing in the physical world, you experience that in the virtual world now because it's all integrated.
Yeah.
So your friends, your family member, peer pressure, all of that is online with us.
So you experienced that. You experienced that, right?
Sort of.
Yeah, I don't, because I could care less. I don't care. I'm not even looking at this shit. So I'm saying, if you're not addicted to it and you're not plugged into it, or you can unplug from it. Kevin Durant, great example. Kevin Durant gets in random arguments with random motherfuckers about his playing and shit, and that motherfucker's a multi-millionaire. I look at Kevin Durant, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you even responding to these random motherfuckers on Twitter?
Your lack of participation is just boomer privilege. That's great. Privilege comes in all types of ways.
What do you
And I
mean boomer
think
privilege?
boomers escaped social media addiction because of boomer privilege.
Are you saying you have to? Are you saying you must?
People
because I feel that I must not, don't have to, I have a privilege that you can't exercise?
I'm saying people who started gambling once had a choice, and then at some point it became not a choice anymore.
Addiction.
Right, but also social media or even technology was integrated into boomers' lives a lot later than millennials. And even for millennials, technology was integrated into our lives later than the generation that will be after us. And so there's a difference. You know, if you have a 2-year-old and you give her a phone and an iPad, I have a friend and she has a 6-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Yep.
They have iPads and they have phones. They have iPhones. What they do on it, I'm not really sure. But you're already starting it early. You don't play outside. You don't do these things. You start to develop ADHD and all of these other issues.
Along with obesity, along with the whole rack of other shit.
But you're judging. Hold on. You're judging. You're judging.
Yeah, I'm judging the shit.
You're judging.
I am.
Suspend the judgment, because there's a point to be made here with that, is that it is interwoven in our lives, especially Gen Zers, and from birth. So you don't have the privilege to disconnect or not care.
You do.
No, you don't.
You do. And let me tell you something, Lavala, and I think we talked about this the last time I was on this podcast. It's coming back. The freedom that you are saying that you don't have is coming back.
Yeah, we're going back to Stone Age.
Nope.
No, it's not.
No. It's not the Stone Age. People are going to say, I'm going to disconnect from my 150 friends on Facebook, and I'm going to get with the 5 friends I really got. Or I'm going to get with the 2 friends I really got. Okay? Because all of these other people who I'm friends with on Facebook aren't my friends.
I think to say that is not to know where technology is heading in relations to.
Listen, I hope I'm alive 30 years from now, and I hope you're alive 30 years from now.
That just doesn't seem to be the trend.
And and we will have this conversation, and you'll say, you know what, Sherm? Yeah, we're back to meeting people in person and having real conversations, not about the highlights of our life, not about the night I went out at the club and I had a good time, or I was in, Honduras and, on top of a mountain and, skip lining or whatever in the hell it is, all the highlights of my life. No, we're talking about real issues, my kids, my wife, my economic situation, my job, my religion, my faith. All of these things that I really believe in instead of what I'm trying to show the world. It's coming back.
I'll agree with you under one condition. I was getting ready to just completely go, I disagree, this is not happening. But I'll agree with you under one condition. And only because I'm working towards that reality. Mm-hmm. But I think the only way we're going to get there is if we start to have a micro community again, which America suck at. This I mentality, this I'm in my luxury vehicle, 7-seater passenger, but I'm the only one driving to work. I'm creating this bubble between me and everyone else. That mentality here is dangerous. That capitalism mentality is dangerous. But I think I'll agree with you. The only way we will really go back to that civilization in the midst of technology where it's completely just becoming more exponential is if we are invested in multimodal micromobility ways of transportation. I'm dead serious. Meaning, take the mode of transportation that you need to get you to a destination. If it's a scooter, if it's an e-bike, metro, or ride share. That brings the community together. People start to go short distances and see people often on their route, talk to each other more. A neighborhood becomes a community.
Build community.
That will change things, but not.
Here's the thing I'm experiencing with my EV. That's a community, right?
What are you experiencing? Yeah. You're just being a part of the EV owner.
You're sitting there and you're charging. You got other EV owners. People get out of their car and be like, what's your experience with this?
Right. How do you like it?
How do you like your car? But not only how do you like your car, what's your charging experience, right? Where are the best charging stations? What's your experience?
Look at you, sir. I forgot you got an EV now. You're experiencing that.
Trips,
is it different?
Right? So it's a community, right?
It is.
And so you build communities around things that you do. That intersects with the technology. Everybody can do the Facebook thing, and so that's a community. But you don't know those people. You don't. So I agree with the micro community.
You get to know the space is there for you, and you can be
Facebook,
offline.
On Instagram, you don't know those people.
Well, I know, but we don't. But we socialize there now. I don't know really how to make this.
It's another platform to socialize, and we likely will stop doing that. I think it's going to be generational, just like anything else.
Well,
so all of the sudden,
how old are you?
Something is going to come.
Wouldn't you like to know? Just kidding. I'm 28.
28. Oh, you're young. All right, because Laval's old as fuck. He's the oldest millennial out there. What I'm saying is, y'all are going to begin aging out of shit. You know what I mean? Like, he's experiencing that shit already. I mean, Laval's already said he's Gen Alpha motherfuckers. I don't know what the fuck they doing.
No, I don't.
All right, they're running around like crazy as fuck.
I don't.
Yeah. You're going to begin to age out.
Yeah, we'll probably age out of the cell phone. I don't think the cell phone is the last stop. So
No.
I think we're going to create better platforms that's more integrated, and it's going to free us of that device. But until then, right now, with the cell phone combined with social media and algorithm and how it's ran, it creates this habit loop, and it's just easier said than done to say, "Oh, I can just unplug. I just won't," or I won't go to the club, because I'm expected to get groped. It's part of. So I gotta go to the club. I'm trying to go. Can you just not grope my ass? You know what I mean?
It doesn't mean that you invite it, but you definitely would go expecting for it to happen.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that's a sad reality.
All right. Well, look, this has been enjoyable. This has been part of a prearranged agreement that we brokered into by the CEO. So hopefully we were able to fulfill our obligation. And as always, y'all, till next time.